Welcome to Disability Empowerment Now, Season 3. I'm your host, Keith Murphy DiCincini. Today I'm talking with comedian and actor from Hulu's Ramy, Steve Wade. Steve, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Dude, thank you for having me.
So, for those listeners and viewers who unfortunately may have no idea who you are, uh, please begin by telling us what what got you into acting in comedy.
Yeah, man, thank you. Um, I actually started public speaking when I was about 9 years old. So that made me really comfortable with being on a stage in front of groups of people. I always used comedy as a way to kind of cope with my disability. I was born with a muscular dystrophy, and as I got older, um, I guess I became funnier. And I thought,
I hope
why
I
not?
can relate to that. But go on.
Absolutely, yes, yes. And so a couple friends of mine in high school, we started making YouTube videos together. It was right when YouTube started taking off, and we got better and better. So I started doing stand up when I was 19, and then my best friend, Ramy Youssef, got his own show on Hulu, and he wrote a part for me. So I've been acting now for about 5 years.
And so you've been acting for about 5 years. What made you, at 9 years old, want to get up and do public speaking? Because I've got to tell you, for a 9-year-old, that's pretty damn impressive. I know people in their 40s and 50s who are terrified to the dickens of public speaking. So, how did you, as, as a 9-year-old, get imbued with confidence enough to tackle public speaking?
Yeah, it's definitely not for everybody. Just like stand-up comedy. Um, you really have to have no fear. When I was 9, I started doing a lot of work with the Muscular Dystrophy Association. And there was one fundraiser that we went to, and they asked me if I wanted to talk. Just say whatever. And I didn't really think anything of it. I was just like, yeah, okay. Um, I was aware of my disability at a very young age.
How
Um, I,
young, if I may ask?
I was about 4. I was 4 years old when I realized that I was not your typical 4-year-old. Uh, just looking at me, you wouldn't know because I was still able to walk. So yeah, um, yeah, I think that helped a lot. Being so young, I had a better understanding of who I was and what the world was like around me.
So, Was it what's the process of transitioning from straight up public speaking to stand up comedy and then also transitioning to being a actor? Is there any linkages in uh,
Oh yeah,
preparing for those roles?
yeah, for sure. I mean, there are a lot of similarities. With my stand up, I write everything out. Right, the same way I would write a speech. You have to have certain delivery techniques. You have to really know, you have to really know your audience. And doing stand up after public speaking, I think made me a better comedian because it made me a better writer. It made me a better speaker. And I was able to know my audience better. And because of that, I was able to read the room better. If I wasn't doing a good job, then I'd be able to pivot right away and try to win my audience back.
Yeah.
If I didn't do public speaking, for years before that, I don't think I'd be that good of a comedian. And it was right away.
That's a very deep insight. What what made you want to become a actor and not stick to stand up comedy?
Well, thankfully, I was able to do both. Um, I have to go back a little bit to give more context. When I was 14, I almost died. I had pneumonia from back surgery, and it almost killed me. So when that happened, my doctors told me that if I got sick again, I wouldn't make it, and that I probably wouldn't live past 18 years old. So for the next 11 years of my life, I lived thinking my death was around the corner, right? I always thought, thinking that I would die tomorrow, but tomorrow never happened. So when I was 25, my doctors were like, "Oh, Steve, you're good. I'm like, you're gonna live a while." And I'm just like, fuck. Now I gotta figure out life. And between those 11 years, I never really took anything seriously. I never started anything because I was so afraid I wouldn't be able to finish it. So when my doctors told me that I was gonna live, I was like, okay, I guess I need to get a job, like a real job. You know, what am I good at? Well, I'm good at making people laugh,
Yeah,
right? I'm good at telling jokes.
yeah.
So I dove in. I took stand up seriously. That evolved into acting. And yeah, here I am.
Do you ever miss just straight up public speaking, or do you feel like you've evolved past it in a form
Yes.
of artistry?
Yeah, it's all of it. It's all of it. I combine all three elements whenever I do it. I take, I just take it all seriously, right? I put 100% into everything I do. And I think that's because I've been doing all of it for so long. So when I do public speaking, I make sure to make it funny. right? Because we both know that when people look at us, they don't want to laugh, right?
No, they really don't. They're they're holding the laughter in because it's
Right,
socially and culturally
right,
unacceptable.
right. They're afraid to.
Yes.
So when I do stand up, literally, the first words out of my mouth are, if anyone here goes, "Oh, you owe me $10," and I'm not kidding when I say
Yeah.
that they actually pay me. If anyone goes, "Oh," I stop what I'm doing and I say, "Okay, take out your phone, pull up Venmo, and send me $10 right now." And they always do it because
Wow.
they feel so bad. But I realized that if I don't get my audience to be comfortable with me within the first few minutes, I've lost them for the rest of the show.
Yeah.
Whether I'm doing 5 minutes, 5 minutes, an hour, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Those 2 minutes are the most crucial part of my entire set. Right? And that's the same. That's the same with public speaking. Right? I have to make them aware that I'm funny. It's not going to be totally sad. And it's okay to laugh. And if that doesn't happen within the first 2 minutes, that's it. I'm done.
What is it like being broadcast on a show on a major streaming platform?
I mean, it's something people only dream of. I have this amazing opportunity to create this beautiful art with my best friend of over 20 years. And I have the opportunity to tell stories that have never been told before and have never been seen before on television. Um, it's such an honor. Like truly, I feel so blessed and so special. That I'm the guy who was able to do this. And basically just go to the writers and say, "Hey, I want to talk about this. Wait, hey, let's do this as an episode." Like, yeah, it's gonna make people uncomfortable,
Yeah.
but it's groundbreaking. We're doing things that have literally never been done before. Let's be the pioneers. Let's do it.
Very well said. So, what is it like being a comedian with a disability? One that is more visible than most, but still, as you alluded to, people are you're you're a stand-up comedian, and if you didn't know ahead of time that people were literally that you would have to pull the laughter out of them. If you didn't know that, I couldn't imagine what would be going through your head as a stand up comedian. So, how do you approach that?
Yeah, it's a blessing and it's a blessing and a curse. I I definitely feel like I have a bit of a disadvantage because you're right. When I do go on stage, they're not expecting somebody who looks like me. Right, and I'm not. Right, you can't hide this. Right, you
No,
can't
you
hide.
really can't.
No, no, you can't hide my body. You can't hide the wheelchair, right?
Yeah.
Um, and just the act of getting up on a stage is difficult in itself. I live right outside New York City. So many comedy venues are not wheelchair accessible, right? So that adds,
Which I could say I was shocked
yeah,
by that,
no, no, of
but
course not,
I'm not.
of course not. No, so like that already puts me at a disadvantage, right? Because I'm not able to perform at like the top venues in New York simply because of stairs. But at the same time, when I do perform in front of an audience who has never seen me before, I'm giving them an experience they've never had. I'm not just telling jokes. I'm not just educating them. Sorry, I'm not just making them laugh. I'm educating them about what it's like being disabled. I've had so many people come up to me after shows and be like, dude, you're hilarious. I never knew about any of that. Right. So it feels so good to be able to do that for people, to open their eyes in a way that they would have never had before. And that adds another layer to just how special it feels.
So it's great that it feels like that now. But I wondered, starting out, how did you adjust or adapt to the knowledge that go, you would wheel on stage and there would be silence or gaps or all. How was it getting used to that as a very real possibility that would happen on a nightly basis or however frequent you perform?
I made sure that that did not happen. I would go up on a stage and say, okay, nothing but laugh. Right. So I had to make sure that I was good enough, that I was funny enough, that I would go above and beyond and make sure that those gaps, that those moments of silence would not happen. And yeah, I think I did it. You know, and I think I've gotten to the point. Like I said, I've been doing this almost 14 years. So yeah, I think I got it.
So, how you mentioned that you have known your best friend for over 20 years. Without me assuming how you met your best friend, how did you meet your best friend?
Yeah. So I had to transfer schools a year early because when I entered the fifth grade, I started using a wheelchair full time. And the school that I went to was not wheelchair accessible. No, I was the new kid in school, and not just the new kid, but the disabled new kid. And then, literally, less than a week later is September 11th, 2001. And, living right outside of New York City, it was all pretty hard. And obviously, my best friend, Ramy Youssef, is Muslim, he's Arab. So we both bonded over being like the outcast, shared feelings of being different, right? So, oh no, you're muted.
Oh, sorry. I was saying I can only imagine what that experience was like at that moment in time.
Yeah, man, it was heavy. It was hard. But thankfully, we had we had the opportunity to basically retell that story in his show. Season 1, episode 4, which honestly is one of the best episodes of television from like the last decade. It retells the story of what that time was like and basically how we met. And yeah, it's such an honor and a privilege to have that opportunity.
You told a very delicate story in a creative art form, which not everyone gets to do and gets to do so often. It's your job, but it's also your passion. Do you have to still pinch yourself, so to speak, that this is my life? This is what I get to do for a living. This is what people pay me to do.
Yeah, it absolutely does not feel real. Again, just the fact that I can, you know, have fun with my friends. But at the end of the day, I consider myself so lucky to say that I love my job. Yeah, it's stressful. The industry sucks, but we're all in it together. Right? And I have so much support around me. I never feel like left alone. I never feel forgotten about. And not everyone should say that. And it's so humbling. It really is. And I can't wait to see what's next.
What brought you to the outskirts of New York City? Were you born here?
Born and raised in Jersey, man.
Uh,
I never left, never want to leave. I love it.
Why do you never want to leave?
Jersey's great, man. I mean, from like I just like a political level, I'm taken care of. Sure, I still have to fight for what I need, but I get it. As opposed to like my states in the South where people like me only get like 10 hours a week of personal care assistance. I don't have to worry about that up here. And that's one less thing to worry about. But I got my family here. New York City, it's the best city in the world. It's where I got all my opportunities, and I feel so much freedom here because of how accessible it is. I can go from my house to a bus stop in my wheelchair within 15 minutes. I can hop on a bus, go to Midtown New York, and I can go see a movie by myself. I can go see a Broadway show by myself. I can hop on a subway, go downtown and see all the homies. Grab a coffee, grab dinner, whatever.
Yeah.
And I can do that all on my own. Right? And that feels so liberating. And so why would I want to give that up? And I'm only getting better at finding my freedom. So again, why would I want to lose all that?
That's a very important point that I want you to talk more about finding your freedom and not adapting to it, but embracing it, having it empower you. Was when did you first discover finding your freedom uh, in transportation around your home? And what was that journey like to beginning to now?
Yeah, honestly, man, it didn't happen until last year. Um,
Wow.
yeah, yeah.
Tell me
So
why. Tell
yeah,
me why it didn't happen until last year, because last
yeah,
year is very, very recent.
very recent. Last year was the writers and actors strikes. All right,
Okay.
so I was completely out of work, and I was really depressed. I wasn't making money. There was no, there was no hope of writing or acting. So I was unemployed. The only thing I could do was stand up, and stand up comedy during this time made me realize that that was the one thing I had that nobody could ever take away with me. That was my agency. I was able to tell my story the way that I wanted to tell it. And if certain people didn't like it, that's okay. Right? It's not for everybody. But I'm not doing it for them. I'm doing it for myself. Right? And that made me realize, okay, I have something here. Right? Something that nobody can take away from me. But like I said, man, I was really depressed. And I didn't even want to leave my room. So one of my closest friends, shout out to Zach's birthday, literally had to force me to leave my room, right? And not in a bad or malicious way. I needed the sunlight. It's important. It's important for our health. So we would do it little by little, right? We would go out, pick up a coffee, and come back. And then that evolved to going out, getting a coffee, having it there, and then coming back. And then that would evolve to having a coffee there, hanging out, going somewhere else, and then coming back. And then one day I was just like, screw it. I want to go to the movies by myself. It's like, I know it's possible. So let me just figure out how to do it. And I did it once, and that was it. And it's such a rewarding and liberating feeling. And at the end of the day, man, I know this might sound weird to some people, but I go where the stars tell me. You know, I follow the starlight and where it tells me to go, right? And I feel safe, I feel comfortable, and I feel protected with that. At the end of the day, the stars are always there, right? Even when we can't see them at night, the stars are always there. And when I look up at night, I see the starlight shining down on me. I know everything's okay, and that's all I need, man. That's all I need.
Wow, that's very insightful and very true. If there are any advocates just starting out in self advocacy, what would be some action tips that you would give them in not only self advocacy, but finding their communities to really nurture them and build them up? Because it does take a village, to use that old phrase. No one can do it on their own, particularly uh, in the disability community. It's not nearly as effective. And so, what would be some of your tips that you would give them?
I would give two tips. First, have no fear. Have no fear. You can't be afraid to get out there. You can't be afraid to be loud, and you can't be afraid to make people uncomfortable because all that has to happen in order to make change, right? You can't be quiet, but you can't hide, right? You have to put yourself out there. You have to know what your message is, and you have to know your audience. You have to know the people that you're trying to reach, the people you're trying to get your message across. Without any of that, you're not going to succeed, right? And again, you have to have no fear. You can't be afraid. You're going to fail, right? Even if you do
We
all
all
that,
do.
right? Exactly. But, and again, no fear. You can't be afraid to fail because that's how we learn and that's how we grow. And the second tip I would give is to have solidarity, right? We gotta have solidarity with everybody around us. And to me, solidarity means supporting supporting a fight that you have no stake in. Because when one person wins, we all win. When one group wins, every group wins. And that was a big part of the strikes last year, where the writers and the actors were on strike. But we had so much solidarity with the Teamsters, with IATSE, with the truck drivers, the hair and makeup people, the set designers, the directors, every other part of that industry had our backs. Because they knew that when we would win, everybody else would win, right? So I'm I'm a straight white guy, right? But that doesn't mean I don't have solidarity with the LGBT community, with the African American community, right? with women's rights. Because when they all win, I win. And solidarity is so important because, just like you said, we cannot do this on our own. We need support. And not just the support of our own communities. We need the support of every other marginalized community that we can get behind us.
Very, very true. So, as we wrap up, what I hope is only part one of several interviews we do together because you're very fun to talk to. Spoiler alert, he's a stand up comedian. Did I give too much away there? So,
Not at all. Not at all.
So I would like to think that this video cast and this podcast reaches both the disabled community, people with disabilities, and people who have yet to discover and embrace their disabilities. I'm not naive to think that both communities take away the same things from the episodes. So, as my guest, what do you hope that listeners with disabilities take away from what we've talked about? And what do you hope that those who have yet to discover or embrace their own disabilities take away from the episode?
We only get one life, and that one life is really short. Probably shorter for us than most people. So, at the end of the day, just do what makes you happy. You can't please everybody. And at the end of the day, all we have is ourselves. We have ourselves and our maker. That's it. So we gotta do what makes us happy. And that's not selfish. Right? There's nothing selfish about wanting to be happy and wanting to do what makes you happy. Right? So I don't know, man. I know it's easier said than done, but once you take that leap, yeah, I think you'll feel a lot better. It's we got one shot at all of this. So let's do it right. And obviously we're not gonna get there right away. It's gonna take us a bit, but start that journey. When you're listening to this, if you don't feel like you're happy, or if you don't feel like you're on the right path to do what you want to do in life, make that first step, whatever it is, no matter how small that step is. Just do it.
Wow, that was very deep and profound. How did a stand up comedian get so wise so damn quick?
Well, so in all seriousness, to do stand up comedy, I've noticed in the comedy community there are two common traits. One, depression, and two, being very aware of the world and how the world works and how people work, right? It's not necessarily a pessimistic view of the world or society. It's very real, right? It's a very realist perspective, and I think that really helps us. It's going back to what I said at the beginning. You have to know your audience. And in order to know your audience, you have to know people. You have to understand the human condition. And I like to think that I do. And that's just because of my experiences, the last 33 years of my life on this earth. And, it's a blessing and a curse. Sometimes I wish I wasn't so aware. Ignorance is bliss. But I wouldn't trade it for anything. You know, I I only want to get better at what I do. My comedy, my acting, my speaking, my advocacy. So being wise, I believe it comes with a price. And that price is just being very aware of how the world operates. It's beautiful, but it's also a bit scary. But again, man, I wouldn't trade it for anything.
So, my friend, if a listener, a viewer wants to find out more about you, more about the show, more about your comedy, where can they go to find out more about your artistry?
Yeah, yeah, thank you. You can check me out on Instagram, at the Steve Way. My DMs are always open. You check out my website, thesteveway.com. The show Ramy is on Hulu, 3 seasons. Um, March 23rd on HBO. Check out Ramy's second stand-up special, More Feelings. I have a movie that I'm the executive producer of, called Good Bad Things. We are the closing night feature film at the Real Abilities Film Festival, New York City, Wednesday, April 12th. Sorry, no, Wednesday, April 10th. So, if you're around, check it out. It's a really wonderful film. It's about a disabled guy who falls in love and lets his disability get the better of him, and he sabotages the whole thing. It's something I think we can all relate to. Um,
Yes, we
yeah.
certainly can. My friend,
So yeah, thank you.
I want to thank you for doing this interview. I very much hope that you will come back so that we can have a longer conversation because, as I teased just a few minutes ago, you are very wise, very funny, very easy to talk to, and it's been an incredible privilege and honor to do part one of our interviews together. I do wish you well, and I hope we stay in touch and that you come back on the show very, very soon.
Thank you, brother. I'm back. I'm back on whenever you want me. And thank you so much for this opportunity. Thank you for allowing me to tell my story. Um, give my philosophy on life. And yeah, man, I really look forward to talking to you next time. And solidarity forever.
Thank you, my friend, my brother. See you soon.